They arrived at dawn, long before the sun had crept above the horizon. The address was deceptively unremarkable. Just a weathered wooden door beside a tidy suburban driveway. Yet behind it lay the private world of country superstar Toby Keith, who'd passed only weeks earlier. For years, fans had heard whispers that Keith kept a hidden vault, tucked away in his personal garage prototype guitars, journal pages, unreleased demos. Now, with the family's blessing, a small crew of archivists, biographers, and chart-topping songwriters had the day's sole key in hand. What they uncovered in that shadowy space wasn't just memorabilia. It was a window into the artist's most sacred thoughts, the creative sparks he never dared let out, and a secret legacy that will leave every country music fan utterly speechless. The door swung open to reveal not rows of dusty lawnmowers and tool chests, but a meticulously organized workshop. Guitar cases lined one wall, their polished surfaces marked with cryptic codes instead of model numbers. Along another, filing cabinets stood neatly labeled with dates and cryptic shorthand. Tack in The Long Way Home 2001, unreleased Sunny Days 2005, Barstool Confessions 2012. In the center of the room, a heavy oak workbench bore the scars of Keith's late night tinkering. Dull guitar picks, half-drunk coffee mugs, and scrap sheets of paper etched with lyric fragments too raw for studio release. It was the sort of roadhouse sanctum only an artist of his stature could cultivate. A place where the line between personal diary and professional instrument blurred into one. First, they opened the guitar cases. Inside lay instruments unfamiliar even to Keith's longtime techs, custom Stratocasters painted in sunrise gradients, acoustic prototypes carved from reclaimed barnwood, and one odd, baritone electric with 6 tuning pegs perched in reverse. Songwriters marveled at the painstaking craftsmanship. Fret wires soldered to specifications not found in any blueprint, necks carved for a single musician's reach. These weren't display pieces. They were Keith's experimental testbeds, guitars he'd secretly coaxed into life after midnight, chasing tones that never made it to studio sessions. One by one, the crew passed the instruments under soft LED lights, each member wondering what unheard anthem might ring out when those strings were finally strummed. Next came the filing cabinets. The archivist gingerly slid open the drawers, revealing hundreds of manila folders. Inside, laid out in orderly rows, were lyric sheets stained with coffee rings and cigarette ash. Some bore hastily scrawled titles, Freedom's Fading, scratched out and replaced with American Candle. Others had no title at all, just the first line of a verse that began, I stood where the long road meets the sky. Music historians recognized early drafts of songs that would later become hits. Many were completely unknown. Ballads of heartbreak so raw they made Keith's final heartbreakers sound tame, gritty mid-tempo numbers dripping with outlaw swagger he never recorded. As they flipped through pages, an eerie realization set in. This garage held an entire alternate discography, hidden from public ears until now. But the most astonishing find lay in a set of leather-bound journals tucked beneath the workbench. Their covers were worn but intact, each embossed with a single initial, TK. Inside, Keith had poured his thoughts in a frank, confessional tone. One journal entry described the day he first held a guitar at age 14, the thrill of the neck under his fingers, the promise of sound waiting to be set free. Another recounted a tearful moment after writing a song that felt too good for me. A composition so personal, he shelved it rather than share it with the world. Later pages charted his struggles with fame, the nights he found solace only in jamming alone under a lone filament bulb. Each word offered a glimpse of the songwriter behind the microphone, raw, vulnerable, and fiercely private. The crew paused at one particular passage, dated 6 months before his death. Keith wrote of a new project, a collection of duets he wanted to record with voices that built me up, naming icons from Dolly Parton to Willie Nelson. He sketched out proposed arrangements, noted phone numbers, and scheduled studio dates. This wasn't a passing whim, it was a carefully plotted concept album, his final grand statement about the musical fathers and mothers who shaped his life. Without hesitation, the archivists agreed the world deserved to hear these songs, unfinished though they may be, to honor Keith's creative vision and pay tribute to his unspoken dreams. By mid-morning, the sun had climbed high enough to seep through grime-streaked windows, illuminating dust motes dancing above the bench. The crew realized time was slipping away. Every minute spent here felt like stealing from the past they were desperate to preserve. With precisely measured care, they photographed each lyric sheet and journal page, scanned guitar serial numbers, and cataloged every scrap of paper tucked into corners. Legal counsel quietly negotiated with Keith's estate for rights to restore and release the hidden recordings, understanding the risk high. Some tracks might be too unpolished, too personal. Yet one thing was certain: what was locked inside that garage wouldn't stay silent for long. As the team locked the door behind them, a hush settled over the driveway. In the sudden quiet, you could almost hear the phantom strum of Keith's secret riffs echoing off the walls. The garage had yielded its treasures, and now the real work began, bringing those hidden songs to life, piecing together the journals into narratives, strapping pickups to those prototype guitars to capture their voices. What started as a simple inventory would soon evolve into a legacy project that could redefine the final chapter of Toby Keith's storied career, revealing artistic contours fans never knew existed and delivering a body of work as unexpectedly moving as his greatest hits. The team spent the afternoon inside the garage, transforming it from a Pandora's box of forgotten artifacts into a makeshift restoration lab. Archivists laid out each guitar prototype on padded tables, while audio technicians unspooled reels of demo tapes onto analog decks. Every item was assigned a numbered tag and photographed from multiple angles. Lyric sheets were placed under plexiglass to prevent further smudging of ink, then gently scanned at high resolution. Journal pages, some edges brittle with age, were flattened between acid-free blotter sheets before being digitized. The goal was simple but exacting: preserve every detail of Keith's handwriting, every nuance of a modified guitar's fretboard, and every hiss or whisper captured on the demo reels. In a corner, two sound engineers worked feverishly to digitize the original cassette recordings. They carefully cleaned tape heads and calibrated playback machines to compensate for decades of wear. One engineer, Sarah Morales, paused mid-transfer to point out an unexpected harmonica riff buried beneath Keith's voice on a chorus demo. She adjusted equalization settings, isolating the low end, and exclaimed that the tone was unlike anything heard on his studio albums. Every snippet required a forensic approach, removing hiss, restoring missing frequencies, and, when necessary, manual correction of dropouts. Each restored demo was saved as a master WAV file, with redundant backups on spark-resistant drives. By late afternoon, the first walls of anonymity began to crumble. Jonathan J.T. Turner, Keith's longtime record producer, arrived to inspect the findings. He ran trembling fingers over a lyric sheet and murmured, "I never knew he wrote this one during soundcheck in Nashville." J.T. recognized a half-finished song titled "Last Call at the Broken Bar." He recalled encouraging Keith to flesh it out in the studio back in 2003, only to witness the singer bury the folder in a filing drawer. Now, decades later, JT promised, "We'll honor his original vision, keep the raw edges, the half-spoken confessions." That's where the magic lies. Elsewhere, two musicologists pored over Keith's journals, extracting date-stamped entries to map out the creative timeline. One entry from May 2007 described an impromptu collaboration idea with Sheryl Crow. Another from fall 2010 sketch chord changes for a song about roadside chapels. They cross-referenced these notes against the prototype guitars that Keith had engineered to specific tunings: open D, drop C sharp, Nashville standard, and realized that each instrument linked to a particular song fragment. A custom acoustic carved from Pekin seemed destined for a gospel-tinged ballad scribbled in that same journal, while the reverse-tuned baritone electric match-scratch riffs detailed in another entry. At sunset, lawyers for Keith's estate arrived to sign off on permissions. They reviewed proposed agreements allowing the team to complete, mix, and release the unreleased tracks posthumously. Toby's widow, whose signature carried emotional weight, asked for assurances that the project would maintain artistic integrity. The archivists assured her that no AI vocals or artificial augmentation would be used. Only Keith's authentic performances, lovingly restored. Tears glistened in her eyes as she mentioned how Toby would have been thrilled by the dedication to authenticity, recalling his own admonition to never polish the soul out of a song. With legal clearance secured, the focus shifted to production planning. The team sketched out a tentative track list for a forthcoming album titled Garage Sessions, featuring 12 songs drawn from the found archives. They debated sequencing. Open with an upbeat number rediscovered on a sunlit TDK tape, alternate with a stripped-back acoustic confession, and close with the projected duets Keith had planned with Willie and Dolly. A renowned mixing engineer known for preserving vintage warmth was contacted to handle the final audio touch, ensuring each restored demo retained Keith's natural resonance and guitar warmth. As the door to the garage finally locked behind them, the crew stepped onto the dusk-lit driveway, arms laden with tapes, journals, and guitars. There was a tangible shift in the air, a sense that these once hidden pieces would soon emerge into public light, offering fans an intimate portrait of Keith's creative soul. In the days ahead, they would draft liner notes, consult art directors on album packaging featuring a photo of the very oak workbench, and begin lining up guest vocalists for the unfinished duet sketches. But at that moment, it was enough to know that Toby Keith's secret garage had surrendered its treasures, and the journey to bring them to life had only just begun. The first mixing session took place in a dimly lit studio tucked above a gritty block of music shops. The team wheeled in the prototype guitars in hard cases and placed the freshly digitized demo files on the engineer's console. As Toby's voice emerged from the monitors, slightly crackled but full of warmth, the room fell silent. The mixing engineer, a veteran known for restoring dusty archives, leaned forward, adjusting EQ to let Keith's natural vibrato breathe. With each fader tweak, the demo-transformed harmonica lines gained shimmer, acoustic strums felt deeper, and the faint hiss of tape gave way to vibrant presence without erasing its vintage character. Around the room, producers and archivists exchanged nods. This wasn't just audio repair. It was a resurrection of moments that had lingered for years in oblivion. Between takes, the engineer spoke in reverent tones. "This guitar tone, it's like listening through a golden haze." He pointed at the multi-track session, where isolated stems of baritone riffs and layered vocals sat ready to be balanced. The team debated adding subtle drum brushes or leaving songs entirely spare, honoring Toby's late-night spontaneity. They settled on seasoning only 2 tracks with gentle percussion. Keepers of raw intimacy would remain uncluttered. Meanwhile, restorative software removed intermittent distortions but preserved the spontaneous breaths and finger squeaks that lent authenticity. Each pass through the mix felt like an archaeological dig, uncovering new harmonics and vocal inflections that Toby hadn't perfected for mass consumption but had cherished in solitude. Next came invitations to select guest artists. The journal entries had named Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, and Sheryl Crow, voices that had shaped Toby's own songwriting. Managers dispatched notes and rough mixes, accompanied by handwritten pages urging each collaborator to add only what feels right. Responses trickled in. Dolly requested the demo stems, planning to layer her alto harmonies. Willie sent a sun bleach guitar lick recorded on a vintage amp. Sheryl recorded an impromptu harmony in her home studio, her voice weaving through Toby's lines like an old friend's embrace. Hearing those treasured voices intertwine with Toby's unreleased vocals brought tears to those in the control room, a testament to the power of shared artistry. While the audio took shape, the art department sketched album packaging. They pored over photos of the oak workbench, coffee, stained lyric sheets, and journal leather. Their concept featured a gatefold sleeve with fold-out flaps replicating Toby's file cabinet labels. Inside, liner notes would quote his own words alongside stories from J.T. Turner and the guest artists about those hidden songs. A special edition vinyl pressing would include a replica journal page and a numbered art print of the prototype baritone guitar blueprint. Merchandisers envisioned collector bundles, lacquer-coated instrumental track acetates, facsimile lyric sheets in a handcrafted folio, and vintage-inspired guitar picks stamped with the Garage Sessions logo. Every design choice aimed to echo the intimacy of Keith's secret creative sanctuary. Record label executives flew in to hear the first mastered cuts. They sat in leather chairs, headphones on, eyes closed as Toby's voice resurfaced. After the final track faded, they erupted into applause. Rare in corporate settings, marketing strategists outlined a 2-tier rollout. A surprise digital single drop on midnight release, followed by an exclusive listening event in Nashville where Die Hard fan club members would gather in an old barn renovated into a pop-up vault. Invitations, hidden in physical envelopes mailed to 1,000 fans, bore keys that unlock private streams. Social media teasers hinted at Toby's Twilight Tales, with cryptic clips of journal scribbles and guitar strings. The goal: recreate the thrill of discovery that had driven the initial excavation of the garage. Meanwhile, the documentary Garage Explorations found a life of its own on streaming platforms and at film festivals. Audiences were captivated by its intimate glimpses of Toby in the garage. Caffeinated nights hunched over lyric sheets, laughter tinkering with prototype guitars, and the quiet determination etched into each journal entry. Makers of the film arranged special screenings at aviation hangars and recording studio museums, venues that echoed the hybrid world Toby inhabited, part road warrior, part solitary craftsman. Q&A panels featured the filmmakers, music historians, and Toby's estate managers, sparking conversations about the ethics of posthumous releases and the responsibility of caretakers entrusted with an artist's unreleased work. In each setting, viewers grappled with how to honor authenticity while respecting an artist's desire for privacy. Interactive exhibits popped up next. Museums of popular culture and music history bid to showcase the original garage artifacts: coffee, stained lyric sheets behind glass cases, prototype guitars suspended under spotlight, and journal excerpts projected onto reclaimed barnwood panels. Visitors donned headphones to hear the restored demos in situ, feeling as though they'd stepped into Toby's creative sanctuary. Curators crafted multimedia timelines that wove his mainstream hits together with the hidden tracks, illuminating how even his most polished successes drew from those private experiments. Interactive kiosks allowed guests to trace the evolution of a song from first scribble to finished duet, reinforcing Garage Sessions' message that art is an unfolding journey. Digital innovators also joined the fray. A limited edition NFT series offered tokenized snippets of Toby's handwritten pages, each NFT unlocking access to unreleased demo stems or a one-on-one virtual songwriting session with a Garage Sessions producer. Augmented reality apps invited fans to point their phones at a guitar case replica and hear the exact tonal experiments Toby had logged on demo reels. These forays into Web3, though experimental, underscored how Garage Sessions bridged analog craftsmanship with emerging technologies, harkening back to Toby's own penchant for tinkering while embracing the future of music consumption. Industry observers pointed to Garage Sessions as a turning point for how estates manage an artist's unreleased material. Contracts began to include clauses for secret vault audits, specifying what happens to demos, journals, and prototypes after an artist's passing. Record labels rethought archival policies, investing in digital preservation and transparency rather than shelving unreleased tracks indefinitely. Garage Sessions demonstrated that fans craved connection, an intimate look at the artist's process, and that safely curated secrets could revitalize a legacy in meaningful ways. By the time Section 5 draws to a close, Toby Keith's Hidden Garage has yielded more than an album and a scholarship fund. It has sparked a movement. Fans, fellow musicians, scholars, and technologists continue to explore the concepts he left behind: that authenticity matters, that mistakes can be beautiful, and that a song's true power often lies in its first, fragile incarnation. The vault has become a shared space, no longer locked behind dusty doors but open to all who seek inspiration in its depths. Garage Sessions stands as proof that an artist's most private work can forge public bonds, and that sometimes the unfinished is more profound than the polished. In the months following the final Garage Session shows, the aftershocks of Toby Keith's hidden archive have rippled far beyond the barn walls where fans first gathered. Songwriters report waking in the middle of the night to scribble down lyric ideas, inspired by the unpolished honesty of these previously unknown tracks. University music departments have added Garage Sessions to their syllabus, teaching students how Keith's rough takes preserved emotional immediacy that studio finishes often smooth away. Documentary crews are embedding microphones in home workshops, interviewing artists about what it feels like to record a song before fear of judgment can set in. What began as dusty notebooks and prototype guitars locked in a suburban garage has blossomed into a movement that champions vulnerability over perfection and creativity over convention. Industry insiders credit the Toby Keith Trust with spearheading a new paradigm in estate governance. After sharing key lessons from the Garage Sessions project, the Trust released an open-access white paper outlining best practices for managing an artist's private vault. It details the importance of inventorying unreleased material digitally, establishing clear consent protocols for guest collaborations, and sequencing posthumous releases in ways that honor artistic intent rather than commercial impulse. Record labels have approached the Trust to adapt these guidelines, and artist estates from pop icons to jazz legends are re-examining their hidden troves in light of Toby's example. Music law courses now highlight garage sessions as a landmark case study in balancing fan demand, ethical stewardship, and respect for an artist's private creative process. On social platforms, the hashtag #ForGarageInspired has spawned tens of thousands of user-generated videos, nighttime acoustic covers under bare bulbs, lyric exchanges in living room jam circles, and workshop tours where emerging artists show how they've set up their own version of Keith's garage. Some cafes host writer's block parties, encouraging patrons to bring a fragment of a song, just a vocal snippet or a chord progression, and share it as is, channeling Toby's ethos that honesty matters more than polish. A handful of mental health professionals even reference garage sessions in therapy sessions, noting how performing incomplete work can reduce anxiety and foster group cohesion. The cultural landscape has shifted. Fans no longer simply consume finished records, they celebrate the beauty of an idea in its earliest form. Meanwhile, the Toby Keith Scholarship Trust has expanded its fellowship into an annual nationwide Garage Academy tour. Mobile songwriting vans carrying prototype guitar replicas, lyric folios, and entry-level recording rigs visit rural towns, bringing mentors and garage sessions alumni directly to community centers and school auditoriums. Workshop participants learn to capture scratch demos, annotate journals in real time, and construct personal lyric booklets. Fellowship recipients receive grants to purchase instruments, fund recording sessions, and attend songwriting retreats, investments that might have been out of reach without the trust's backing. Alumni frequently return home to launch their own garage lights, open mic nights, spreading the trust's creative spark through counties where music programs once lacked resources. Throughout, Toby's widow remained deeply involved, offering personal reflections on each song's mood and meaning. She suggested dedicating a portion of proceeds to the Toby Keith Scholarship Fund for aspiring songwriters, a nod to his belief that music should foster new talent. In heartfelt moments during album sequencing, she recalled her husband's comment that the best songs are the ones you never let anyone hear. Now, those private anthems would finally find their audience. As Section 3 draws to a close, the once secret vault of guitars, journals, and demos has been reanimated into a full-fledged musical project. Garage Sessions stands ready to unveil Toby Keith's hidden legacy to the world, forging unlikely duets, unearthing raw confessions, and transforming a forgotten garage into the birthplace of an extraordinary posthumous masterpiece. As midnight struck on release night, the first single from Garage Sessions, an achingly raw duet of Toby and Dolly Parton, landed on every streaming platform. Country radio DJs broke format to spin the track live, filling airwaves with Keith's gravelly baritone woven into Dolly's crystalline harmonies. Social media ignited Garage Sessions trended within minutes. Fan videos flooded TikTok and Instagram stories with tearful first listens, and playlists titled Hidden Toby shot to the top of country music charts. By dawn, the song had logged over 500,000 streams, eclipsing any surprise release in the label's history. Followers tagged friends, shared screenshots of lyric highlights, and speculated about the full album's hidden gems. Meanwhile, the Nashville Pop-Up Vault event drew thousands of die-hard fans to a refurbished barn on the outskirts of town. Invitations carried antique brass keys, unlocking doors to velvet-lined booths where attendees donned headphones and lounged on reclaimed leather sofas. Above each seating cluster, Edison bulbs cast a warm glow over framed pages from Toby's journals. A hush fell as guests pressed play. The next track, a solo demo of Last Call at the Broken Bar, crackled through, raw guitar picks audible beneath Toby's rough-edged vocals. Muffled sobs echoed through the rafters. For many, it was the first time they'd felt so intimately present inside Keith's creative world. After each song, a gentle bell chimed and guests rose to explore nearby stations. One showcasing the prototype baritone guitar, another offering rare lyric pamphlets to examine by lamplight. Backstage, the production team monitored metrics on laptops, dwell time at each station, sentiment analysis from live tweeted comments, and frantic spikes in email sign-ups for pre-orders of vinyl collector's editions. Label executives whispered in excitement. This immersive model had evoked such visceral response that it could redefine future album rollouts. Journalists from Billboard, Rolling Stone, and Country Weekly circulated among fans, capturing quotes like, "I felt like I was sitting with Toby on that workbench," and Listening here, I understood music in a whole new way. Reviewers praised the approach as revolutionary and a masterclass in fan experience, highlighting how the event honored Keith's spirit of authenticity. Over the following week, the full Garage Sessions album debuted atop Billboard's Country Albums chart and landed within the top 10 on the alt-genre Billboard 200. Critics lauded the track sequence The Pulse, quickening opening with the harmonica-driven Midnight Rambler, the gospel-tinged warmth of Roadside Chapel, Dolly's Do It, Willie's laid-back guitar cameo, and Cheryl's bittersweet harmony on the closing song, Fading Streetlights. Country music stalwarts wrote in their columns that the album felt less like a posthumous compilation and more like an unfiltered conversation between Toby and his closest friends. Chart reports noted that digital downloads of unreleased Keith tracks outpaced sales of newly recorded country singles by veteran artists, a testament to the potency of these once hidden works. As the album's success reverberated, the project's philanthropic dimension took center stage. Proceeds from limited edition vinyl and digital downloads funded the Toby Keith Songwriters Trust, a new grant program dedicated to nurturing young talents in rural communities. Announcements of scholarship recipients streamed across platforms alongside snippets of the barn event, reinforcing the project's ethos of giving back. In interviews, Keith's widow emphasized that Toby had always cared about the next generation of storytellers and that Garage Sessions was more than music. It was a legacy of mentorship and creativity handed down like one of his prototype guitars. The label capitalized on the momentum by releasing a documentary film, Garage Explorations, premiering at the CMAs. Viewers saw never-before-seen footage Toby in the garage at dawn, scribbling lyric ideas on napkins, candid studio chats with JT Turner, shuffling tapes in search of fresh demos, intimate interviews with Dolly, Willie, and Cheryl reflected on Keith's generosity, his relentless work ethic, and his sometimes self-doubting heart that hid behind cowboy bravado. Critics called the film a moving portrait of an artist in constant pursuit of truth, and awards buzz grew for Best Music Documentary honors. Radio stations organized special programming blocks, weaving Garage Sessions cuts into morning shows alongside classic hits like Should Have Been a Cowboy. Podcasts ran deep dives analyzing Toby's guitar techniques on the prototype instruments, while fans discovered Easter eggs in liner notes, tiny sketches in the margins of journal pages that hinted at even more unreleased materials. A companion coffee table book, featuring high-resolution images of the workbench, journal excerpts, and behind-the-scenes photos, became a bestseller in music memoirs. Collectors clamored for autographed copies, and independent bookstores reported sell-outs within hours. Months later, the Garage Sessions tour kicked off. Barn-style venues in small towns, intimate shows with Toby's bandmates, and guest artists performing the hidden tracks live. Attendees described standing within arm's reach of Keith's legacy, feeling the same electricity only a few could imagine existed. Post-concert Q&A sessions allowed fans to handle replica lyric pages and strum scaled-down reproductions of the prototype guitars. All the while, the Toby Keith Scholarship Fund continued to grow, underscoring how the project had transformed personal artifacts into communal inspiration. As the echo of that first midnight release fades into sustained success, one thing remains clear: the treasures locked inside Toby Keith's garage have resonated far beyond their dusty workshop. They revealed the private artistry of a global icon, bridged generations of songwriters, and redefined what it means to honor an artist's memory. Garage Sessions stands not just as an album, as a testament to the power of creative authenticity, and to the belief that the most profound stories are sometimes the ones we almost never hear. The success of Garage Sessions rippled far beyond the charts, transforming what began as a personal archive into a cultural phenomenon whose impact continues to unfold. As the initial tour wound down in small-town barns, fans and critics alike praised the raw vulnerability that shone through every track. Letters arrived from listeners who described healing through Toby's unguarded lines, families united by shared memories of his music, and aspiring songwriters emboldened to trust their own creative impulses. Industry veterans noted that the album's willingness to embrace imperfection, tape hiss, half-finished verses, finger squeaks, felt revolutionary in an age of overproduced perfection. Garage Sessions became shorthand for authenticity, a touchstone for artists who longed to share their unvarnished stories. Behind the scenes, the Toby Keith Scholarship Trust flourished. What started as a commitment to underwrite a handful of songwriting grants expanded into a comprehensive fellowship program. Recipients hailed from rural communities stretching from the Great Plains to the Deep South, each selected for demonstrated promise and a commitment to community service. Fellows received seed money to purchase instruments, studio time, and songwriting retreats, resources they might never have accessed otherwise. Workshops led by Toby's former band members and guest collaborators offered hands-on lessons in lyrical craft, stage presence, and the business acumen required to navigate an evolving music industry. Alumni returned to their hometowns as ambassadors, launching open mic nights, youth music camps, and scholarship committees, ensuring that the spirit of garage sessions fueled creative renewal across generations. In parallel, a deluxe VR edition of Garage Sessions is nearing completion, co-produced by technologists and the Trust. Fans will slip on headsets and find themselves inside a fully rendered recreation of the actual garage leather, bound journals on a scuffed oak bench, prototype guitars hanging from hooks, and workbench drawers filled with lyric sheets stained by coffee rings. Users can virtually leaf through Toby's notes, pluck guitar strings tuned in alternate keys, and activate demo stems with a simple gesture. Developers are also minting a series of blockchain-based digital collectibles, authentic scans of Toby's handwritten lyrics and isolated vocal takes, allowing superfans to own a traceable piece of music history. By blending analog intimacy with cutting-edge innovation, the project extends Garage Sessions' reach into tomorrow's creative frontiers. Above all, the legacy of Toby Keith's garage underscores a universal truth: the seeds of enduring art often germinate in private sanctuaries where fear of imperfection yields to the freedom to explore. The transformation of discarded lyric scraps and prototype instruments into a phenomenon that shapes pedagogy, philanthropy, and fan culture is proof that authenticity resonates more deeply than any glossy finish. As new generations unlock their own creative doors, journals in hand, guitars at the ready, they carry forward the spirit that animated every tape, every journal entry, and every strum in that once hidden workshop. Garage Sessions remains more than an album. It is an invitation to embrace the raw, unvarnished power of first drafts and the courage it takes to let the world hear them.